Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Now, in this video I'm going to be talking about something a lot different to what I usually talk about, but that is COVID-19 and the fact that it's had all sorts of different impacts on all sorts of different types of people, because obviously the government have basically said, well, the main thing they're basically saying to us is stay at home. There's never really ever a time where in my Google feed I get a message from Google, or do we say the government, saying that you are still allowed to go outside to do walks and all sorts of things like that to keep you fit and, to keep you active and make you stay sane sometimes, because for me, I'm always someone who likes moving around and stuff and going places, enjoying myself instead of just being sat at home and doing the same old stuff all the time. Like a little bit of work and then make some videos and then play on some games and then pretty much nothing. And if you just keep on doing that, your brain does slow down, because I've noticed that's been happening with me. Like every time I was going to school and things, obviously this will happen to everyone at some time, but when you go to school, your brain is always active and stuff. So obviously that's why every time you go to school, the more and more you do, the more tired you feel in the end, and that's why by Fridays you're usually knackered and you're just like, oh my god, I'm so glad I've just got this one day left and then I'm off for 2 days and then go back to school the next day. It's because for all that time, your brain's been learning new things and processing new things and doing all sorts of different things and all sorts of stuff like that. Although now, though, like I said before, the only thing I'm getting in my Google feed is the same old stuff, which doesn't really matter anymore. I've even seen this thing on the news where it says hot and cold weather doesn't kill off coronavirus. Now, I hate to say this, but the only reason the government are sort of just saying don't go outside, don't really do this, don't really do that unless you really, really have to, is because, well, let's face it, the government don't want to feel bad if there is a massive spike and then they just think back, oh yeah, well, we have recently just said that everyone can go back outside. I mean, as soon as they said, we're coming back out of lockdown, that was bad enough, but again, it's sort of one of those things which you can't have perfect. There's always going to have to be some errors in between, because you can't control what other people do, I understand that. But I think at the same time, it sounds quite stupid for me to say this, but the more the government actually say don't go outside, other people's mates might just think, oh yeah, really? No, I'm still going to go outside. They can't really necessarily stop me, which, to be honest, they can't. Because as soon as you say, oh yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do some shopping, I mean, well, at that point, do they try and say, oh yeah, well, we've seen you go down there and do other stuff, and now you're trying to say you're going shopping? Huh, no, go back home. Nah, I don't really see them doing that. And since we're on that note, I've also noticed that there's a lot less police cars just patrolling the towns, where I live anyway, and I'm guessing the same goes for where other people live. Well, again, I hate to say this, but the busier places are, I think the police do try and avoid those areas, because they know, in places like London especially, they would be bouncing before or after all this happened, and you had to stay inside all the time, and you can't really go outside unless you really, really have to. Yeah. Was because at that point they would basically have to send loads and loads of police people over to try and tell people to stay away from each other and ask them questions like where they're heading, because, like I said, London is a very busy place all the time, so yeah, the police would have an impossible job on their hands to do, and I think this is why I see a lot less of them now is because they're sort of just backing off from the idea because they know that people aren't listening, people are still doing what the hell they like, and for some reason it's just for the government to get money. Now, I don't think that is the case. Now, to all those people who have probably made it this far, they're probably thinking to themselves, wow, could this video get any more negative? Now, well, I suppose the title is a big enough warning as it is, and to be honest, I really hate making these videos. It's just that I'm one of these people who, if they have a thought in their head, there's always bugging them, they have to do something about it, like tell people about it, and I think this is probably the best way and the quickest way for me to do it. And yeah, like I said, I really do hate making these videos, but I feel as if I don't say what I think I need to say, then it's just going to be really annoying. Now, it doesn't really matter if you're like one of those people who hate going outside because of this virus, and you think as soon as you step a foot outside, you'll instantly fall ill, or things like this. Now, yeah, I'm not sure if it'll work like that. Plus, actually, outside is probably one of the more sort of safer places to go than inside because the air filter is different. Now, this is another, but this social distancing thing will always be, because you'll always get that one person who thinks it'll be really funny to go really close to someone because they've got the idea in their head that this is all fake and it doesn't matter and the government are just saying it to get money. And no, they're not. Plus, if that was the case, that's not really one of the ways to do it. And this is another thing, even if you are social distancing in your, well, not social distancing in your house, but if you're like keeping yourself in your house, I would say the word for it, but for some reason isolating yourself is the word I was looking for. Even if you are isolating yourself, basically in your house with your family in there, and you're telling them to isolate themselves anyway as well, and you'll still have a risk, I suppose, because say if you order something online or whatever, and then it comes to the door, there'll always be a time. I can hear a siren. Anyway, ignore that. Yeah, there'll always be a time where someone doesn't wear a mask because, again, since they're just going over somewhere, they think they probably won't really be seen and they can't really get reported because there wouldn't really be enough evidence as such, so they could just go out wherever and just not wear a face mask because some people are like that. Some people are just, even though they know they're going to other people's houses where they are different and sometimes can be really, really scared about this whole thing, mostly because they might have underlying health conditions or they might be quite elderly. And, well, yeah, some people just are quite lousy with this whole thing and they don't wear a face mask, not thinking of what other people's conditions may be. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't really matter what way you look at it, or what you do about it, or what you do anything about it with, it's still gonna have its downsides.